So for my goals in 2016, the first one is really to continue covering games on multiple systems, right? I know a lot of people, I think, expect the channel to be a C64 focused one, and that's the lead platform of what I cover, but I do like to cover games on other micros, the Amiga, the Ataris, the Plus 4. Right now, I can add 2 machines to that list. One I can't announce yet, but the other is my 48K Spectrum. I'm still working on getting my 128 captured properly. I don't have a setup that handles RGB signals for recording, and that's something I want to work on this year, is you capture hardware and actually capture those systems so that I can do some BBC micro games as well. That just requires, it's a bit of research and a lot of money. And to follow on from that is getting more games to cover. I need to get more games on non-C64 platforms. I think I'm okay off Amiga games for the moment. There is an Amiga want list I have. I have a spreadsheet that tracks these games I'm after and notes. I could do with more Spectrum, more Atari, more Acorn games. So getting more games that I can, which again is also dependent on money. Although I'm going to loosen up the one rule I have. The main rule I have is I usually try to have a physical copy of the game that I cover. And that works usually so I have familiarity with the game. I think that's very important for me and what I do with my channel. But if I'm going to do more multi-platform stuff, I think it should be okay to not necessarily have a version of that game on that platform if it plays the same. So let's talk about an example. The Great American Cross Country Road Race. I covered the 64 version of that a long time ago. It's a pretty early video. But that's a game that originally came out on the Atari computers as well. And the changes between that and the 64 version are subtle. It's mostly presentation, some minor gameplay elements that actually tweak the game up a fair bit. And while I've already covered the 64 version, I kind of wouldn't mind covering the Atari one in some way. But of course it means I have to find a copy of the Atari version. Or I have to, that's one thing I would like to do. That kind of scenario, where I've already covered a game on one platform, maybe I'll cover it on another platform, I don't know. That's something I'd actually love to hear from you viewers about. Would you find that odd to see a game I'd already covered on one platform get covered on another? I don't know. My third one is streaming. I've done a few streams. I'm kind of wanting to get back into it now. And I kind of want to try and build a regular, even if I just do it once a week pattern. Whether that's once a week I cover some retro stuff or I cover some indie game I'm playing or things like that. I kind of want to use streaming as a way to talk about things outside of the retro space. I enjoy playing retro games. I enjoy playing modern games, shock horror. And I want to be able to show some of those off that are worth playing, especially being on a minority platform where, not every game comes out. And it's sort of that feeling I get when it's some cool indie game I want to play comes out and it's Windows only. If I can do my part to help get people interested in these things that aren't necessarily on Windows, then I think it'll be good for everyone. Again, so I want to try and do that. But when it comes to retro stuff, if I do the upgrade to my capture kit I want to seriously investigate streaming off retro systems. At the moment when I do it, I'd usually run an emulator. And that's fine. The limits. But there's something a little more authentic when you run it off real hardware. And I think it would be cool to stream retro computers off the hardware, retro computer games from the hardware. I know there's a lot of folk who do streaming of old console games off the real hardware, and they've obviously got, fancy upscalers and all that stuff, and that's the stuff I need. But I'd love to see more people doing it off retro home computers. The other thing with streaming is I have moved over to YouTube gaming. I'm probably going to keep there because really I just got better quality interactions through that than I did through Hitbox. So at the moment, YouTube gaming is probably where I'm going to stay for doing this stuff. I just found it worked so much better, and I found that I got better quality interaction from the community. I found like I had more of my community turn up when I did my top 10 stream than I've ever had pop up through Hitbox. So because it's better for notifying people. Most of my community is on YouTube, and that's pretty much what I expect. So yeah, I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna trying to build a pattern with that. It may be a weekend thing, I'm not sure, but that's something I want to work on. And the last goal is really about my development. If you've seen my channel, about a month ago I posted a video that was a work in progress of a game I'm currently working on for PC Mac. It's still pretty early, still pretty rough, and I'm sort of trying to fine-tune that and finish it in the next couple of months. It's a very small arcade shooter. Just something I need to get out of the system, I think is the way I put it. But when I get that out of the way, along with supporting it, and of course depending on work and other things, I really want to do more C64 programming. The itch has been building quite a bit over the last couple of years, especially over the last year or so. Electric Adventures, Let's Make a Retro Game series, the 64-byte Screencast series, and a lot of other bits and pieces, and been meeting a lot of people online, interacting with them who are doing 64 homebrew dev on the site, and I've been really getting my itchy wanting to do something simple and get started. So that's a goal for me, is to finish this game I'm working on and then start doing some 64 stuff. I don't know how. My dream circumstance 1 year is to at some stage get a game published in the RGCD contest, but realistically that's still quite a bit away for me to even consider. But I do want to work on something and get it out there. This is sort of the downer part, because in order to facilitate those goals, there are going to be some programming changes. The good news is the Rob Plays format is safe. I have some minor tweaks to that, but that's still pretty much the same way it runs. It is unscripted. I'll be picking a game in my collection that I own. I will have played it a few times offhand and have a bunch of notes, and I'll play it, talk about those notes, talk about interesting trivia and things like that. That's still pretty much the plan. I aim for a good run through of the game, whether that's like one life or one playthrough until I die or I get quite a bit way in. That formula is not going to change. It's tweaked, but it's not going to change. Real hardware as always. You pretty much know what to expect. Joining that as always will be the reviews. I want to try and do more this year. Last year I had a goal I set last year that I didn't make was I wanted to do one scripted review a month, and that didn't quite work out. I got sick, I had crunch, I had other things to deal with. This year, I kind of want to try and achieve that again. If I can do one scripted review a month alongside my unscripted videos, that's a good start. If it means, it means a bit more planning, it means a bit more work on mine. But if I can do that, I'll be very happy. Now, along with that, I do kind of want to try a Let's Play series. I think there's a few games on my list I want to try. I think I'm going to pick one of them. I don't know when I'll start that. That might be later. Summer is always a time when I don't like leaving the Retro Harbour on too much. Summers in Australia can get pretty hot, and I don't want to risk blowing hardware yet. So I think maybe when it starts cooling down, like autumn, maybe I'll try and put that together, like March, April. That's something I want to do. You'll see more about it when the time is right. Now, the first thing I'm counting is like the pickups and updates videos. I originally started those because it was sort of like my way of giving you a refresh at the end of the month of the videos I publish, because let's be honest, being in Australia, my time zone is off for everyone. So, I don't have that big an Australian audience. A lot of my audience is Europe and America. So I've been optimizing my publishing really for them. So I'm pretty much going to be sticking with the Friday evening publishing for the Rob Plays episodes at least. So that's afternoon in Europe. So what I would do is the pickups and updates videos were pretty much me summing up the month, like what videos I put out, and using pickups to sweeten the deal. But what I found was that people kind of didn't really care. I kind of feel that people didn't really care about what I was talking about in terms of updates, especially when I tried to talk about other things. They were topics that, you know, people never really cared about. You know, it's sort of like pickups, and who cares about the rest? So I kind of decided to drop that. I've actually found not producing it over the last few months to be incredibly liberating, because I haven't had pickups. There was no, you know, this is something I talked about many months ago, and the response being primarily like pretty much ignoring what I said about that pretty much summed up why I think it was the right move. You know, people aren't really interested in that kind of stuff. They just want to see the pickups. So if I get any special pickups, I'll probably make sure I do an episode on them sooner rather than later, and also try and include a bit more of the physical aspect. Some of my changes to how I'm doing the Rob Plays episodes will actually work with that better. And that being said, if you do use Facebook, I recommend you hop on my channel page, because I'll be showing. I always post photos of pickups there, and waffle a bit about them. You know, so I recommend if you are interested in that stuff, you hop on that. I'm gonna put it on screen as well as in the description, and you'll see them as I get stuff. I think that way it'll be a little more interesting. Now, like with the pickups and updates, I'm also going to stop doing video responses. If I'm going to respond to stuff, it's just going to be comments. Like with the pickups and updates, I found that it was quite a bit of work to put them together. And when I did, it really didn't draw in a crowd. Or when it did, they didn't seem to really stick around for my main content. I don't know, I kind of find myself wanting to focus on talking about interesting games rather than like questions. I will interact with questions offline for sure, but doing them in video, it's not worth my time. I'd rather use that time to research a game I want to cover, work on my own games, or have a life. Sorry. Again, it just is something that isn't working for me. But to replace those, I do want to try and talk more on development. I'm hoping that when I formally pull the covers off the game I'm working on, which should hopefully be later this month or early next month, I want to start showing some bits and pieces. There's a few interesting tidbits with how I'm developing it that might be interesting, especially if you're interested in things like Unity. On top of that, when I start doing 64 work, I certainly want to talk about that in quite some capacity. I think there's a lot to talk about on that front as well. Now, beyond that, the last thing I sort of want to expand to cover is just more general gaming bits. Some little hardware tidbits. A lot of people ask about my setup for recording, so I want to talk about that at some stage. A lot of people also ask about, people probably ask about recording stuff, so I want to talk about that at some stage. People want to, I think it's worth showing non-retro stuff they've been playing, talking about that. I kind of like Crow's, I forgot the name of the series, but when he finishes playing something modern, he usually does like a talk video on that game talking about it. I kind of like that, and follow through with doing some indie stuff or whatever. I think that's worth talking about. And I also want to do reviews of additional gaming things that aren't necessarily old games. So some of the retro books I've gotten might be worth talking about, or hardware, additional things like that. All little things that are auxiliary, but they'll be on the side. They won't. They're of lower priority than Rob Plays content. Again, this is really. It really depends on how things go throughout the year, how things line up, depending on whether I do all of these. But that in my head is sort of the plan for the year. I'm hoping that you're kind of hoping to stay on board and enjoy this. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to covering some of the bigger games I've wanted to cover. I'm looking forward to some, another good year of 64 Homebrew. I'm looking forward to the interaction. one of the things that surprised me a lot last year was when developers of some of the older games, not talking homebrew releases, but of original releases, would actually find my videos covering them and leaving some good comments. That is probably something that makes my day. Every time I get one of those comments on a video, it really makes my day. Interaction and discussion really makes my day. I love that when I can watch someone's video on a game that I've never even heard of, and they do a good job of it, and it's like, oh, I really want to go play that. And likewise, if something I produce triggers that for someone, then that's kind of like mission accomplished for me. That's what I care about most of all. That's really what I want to work with. So yeah, if I can do that for someone, I'll be very happy. Now, thank you all for watching. I hope this excites you. I hope you're as excited as I am for 2016. I'm really excited for what my plans are for this channel. I do want to hear your thoughts. A couple of things I talked about earlier. As I said, if you want to catch the pickups, do join on Facebook. And the next episode of Rob Plays will appear on January 8th. Again, in the evening Australia, in the middle of the day in Europe. So do hit sub if you're not already subscribed, and wait for that. Otherwise, I will catch you then. Thanks again for watching.